Greetings, Patrick here with 8 Questions with. It's our first show of December, and I'm glad you guys are here. It is cold here in Michigan. Um, we had some snow earlier last week. Got a dusting on the ground. It pretty much is all gone away now, but the cold came right behind it. So it's one of those things where you're really glad that the snow is gone, yet it's still cold enough to cause problems on the road, especially at night. Um, and of course, we always get our usual every winter. We always get our usual people out there who think that they're invincible, and we always get a lot of early crashes from people who are speeding. They're in a hurry to get to the mall or hurry to get somewhere, and they end up crashing and ruining everybody's holiday. But we're not going to do that today because we didn't. I had to rush here a little bit, but not too bad. We're going to be talking to our guest tonight. Christopher Pelton will be here with us about right now. The doorbell rang early, so you know what that means. We're going to get this party started a little bit earlier than we normally do. But when it comes down to talking horror movies, really, when is it ever too early? So let's go get Christopher.
Hey there, Patrick. How are you?
Good. Now that's a quick one. Normally I go up there and I just talk for 15 minutes, and then the guest comes, and then off we go. But I have a rule that once the guest gets there, the party starts.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, doesn't it? I think so too. I'm looking forward to this. You run the THC, the Horror Connection podcast.
Yes.
And I cannot wait to sink some teeth into some horror movies with you today. A lot of my friends would come over here and check this out, and they're going like, "Oh yeah, we know what Patrick's going to be bringing to the party," and you guys are probably damn right about that. Because our community here in YouTube. Have you explored the community very much here, and the horror movie community very much?
Oh, absolutely. I've been doing the podcast thing now for about a little over a year. And I've had some tremendous guests on. I've met some great people. I've met some other podcasters, and I do their shows. They've come on to my shows. So yeah, there's been a lot of support. I think that the horror community, when it's at its best, is definitely a supportive community, and I've had the opportunity to meet some great people over the last couple of years.
You mentioned something I caught. I caught this, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it too. Was you mentioned about how because you and I had met. Did we met through Instagram? I think we met through Instagram. And oh my gosh, I tell you one thing: you ever come to the part where you're booking your show and you can't find anybody to guest star?
Oh yeah, it happens.
Okay, it won't happen anymore. You know where to go for this, right? If you need a guest,
yeah,
I go to Facebook. I'll go to Facebook, and I'll go and start some of the acting groups, and I'll sit there and say, who wants to talk? Who wants to talk about their movie or their career?
Oh, sure.
It's like I'm the dentist. They treat me like it's hard as hell to get anybody to answer back. But Threads, loving it.
Threads is great. Threads saves a lot of time for me.
No kidding.
It's a nice way to put this. There's so much less drama on Threads, I find, than there is on Facebook in general. And a lot of the folks that I've met on Threads over the last 6 months, or 4 or 5 months, however long it's been, I've met some great folks. I've met some really talented writers and really talented musicians, people who understand that this is a business, and if you want to be, and it is what I always say, I'm a publisher, as well as 100 other things, and we can certainly get into that. But one of the things that I tell people is that when you are in this industry, you are your brand. If you want your books to succeed, if you want your movies to succeed, or your albums to succeed, you have to go out there and you have to be the voice. Because quite honestly, if you're not excited about what you're doing, why the hell should I be excited about it?
Right. And there's just too much out there now. I mean,
yeah,
doing, a lot of the folks today, they have no idea what it was like in the, in the 80s or up to the late 90s, early 2000s, where a lot of times to promote yourselves, you literally have to take a flyer, and run around different. I mean, now it's well, yeah, I can just go on the internet. Well, guess what? So can everybody else. So
exactly.
You going out there, it's looking to stand out.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to have to make your own noise now because there's just too much out there.
Exactly.
When you I always it was funny. It's like I always was sort of like some of the bigger guests. I always feel a little bad because a lot of times these small shows don't really attract that much, right?
Right.
So you get out there and you're like, man, I'm sorry, there's only 8 or 9 of us out here. To a person, Christopher, and you're talking like I've talked to some well-known folks as you have.
Sure. I
have never heard anybody say, well, that was a waste of my time. Never once. Never once.
Not once.
Here, they could have did a convention in Chicago and did a panel in front of 600 people or 1,000 people or whatever, San Diego, and then come over here and do a little podcast and going like, wow, what the hell is everybody? This is a waste of time. They get it. They understand that any publicity now is great.
That's right.
It's like you could have had somebody else on. It might not have been me. And,
sure.
I appreciate that attitude. It's tremendously. It helps us small casters tremendously.
Oh yeah,
we can get in there and we're way below our weight. We're fighting below above our weight class. But at least we can get into it. At least we can.
Sure.
So I appreciate when someone comes onto the show and Threads. Oh my gosh, crazy good.
Threads has been great. I've met one of my. I'm doing a lot of stuff these days. So it's been an interesting experience because across the social media platforms, you have to be there every day. You have to be out there. You have to be following along with what's going on. Things change so rapidly. 1 minute we love somebody, the next minute we hate somebody because something they did 6 years ago all of a sudden comes to light. So it's a weird thing.
How do you respond to something like that? Let's because that's happened, right? Let's just say let's say you have a show booked with me, right? And you and I are getting ready to do our show, but then all of a sudden, you find out 6 years ago, I said that dogs rule and and cats suck.
Right.
Are you going to turn around and sit there and everybody cancels me for saying that? Now, would you cancel me for saying that? So something like this 6 years ago?
I would not.
Me either.
And I will be as I will word this as nicely as I possibly can.
Cut loose.
I have had I've cut
loose.
I have run into some problems with people in the indie horror community. There are certain groups out there who represent themselves to be the end all be all, to tell people you can't succeed unless you belong. You can't succeed unless you pay us. Your books will never get anywhere unless we're behind you. And I came along, and I'll tell you a little bit about what happened. In 2020, I published my first book. It was a book of flash fiction stories. Most of them were written during the early days of the pandemic. Now, when COVID hit and the whole world got put on lockdown, for me, it wasn't a big deal because I have severe anxiety problems. I suffer from agoraphobia. So I was already living the lockdown life. So all of a sudden, the rest of the world started living like me. So I put out my first book, did okay. Put out a second book 2 years later, did okay. I'm not cashing fat checks. I'm not living the life of luxury. Sold a few copies here and there, did some conventions, met some great people. And I decided, and then around the same time, I was submitting to magazines. And, you get the usual rejections. But then I kind of hit boom, boom, boom on a couple of magazines. So I got to thinking, what if I was to do a magazine? For first-time writers trying to get their foot in the door, it's a struggle. Maybe I can do something to help. So I went about, I put the idea together, I put it out there, and I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm nobody in the industry at this point. I've written 2 books, they didn't sell all that well, but so if I get like 10 or 15 submissions, I'm going to be happy. 130 submissions came in for the first issue. And it was literally horror from all over the world. And it was fascinating because I learned that everybody's got a boogeyman, but everybody's boogeyman is different. Sure. And horror in Zimbabwe and horror in Vienna and horror in, all of these places, it was crazy. So we did the first magazine. It went okay. We sold some, traded some, gave some away at conventions. I did a lot of shows because I learned that. And this is another piece of advice I offer to anybody, and to my fellow podcasters, to anybody else. If you want to have somebody come on your show, ask. The worst they'll say is no, but I have never asked anybody in the industry to come on my show and had them say anything other than, I don't do podcast, or no, thank you, blah, blah. I've never been told to go screw. I've never been like, oh yeah. I've never been like, oh, who the hell are you? Blah, blah, blah. Never happened.
Yeah, most of the time, people say, they'll tell me, because people ask me, how do you get your guests, and I'm like, well, for one thing, you learn, it's like going out for an audition. You ask and then you wait, and then I can say about 98% of the time I get shot out of the saddle.
Sure.
It's very hard to, but it all depends on what you're looking for in a guest too. I mean, if you're looking for a guest, if you want a big name star and you're holding out for that, that's one thing. Me, man, I'm already at home. Here we are. We're already talking. I'm already happy.
Yeah. Right.
I'm happy when you get when you get a well-known personality. It's great. It's great. But I like talking to the up and comers. Yeah. So I'm pretty blessed in that respect that I get the usual, sometimes I get the usual bumps in the road where somebody will flake out or what have you. I'm sure you and I both could tell stories. But it can be a little bit frustrating. But overall though, it's been a ball.
Oh yeah. And it's nice. One of the things that I do, and like you were to your point earlier, I have never had a guest wrap my show and be like, oh my God, that was the worst experience I've ever had, or you don't know what the hell you're doing. But never. Everybody I've ever had on, and if you look at my channel, I've talked to movies, I've talked to movie stars, I've talked to award-winning authors, I've talked to musicians, I've talked to artists. Every single one of them has said the same thing. They enjoy coming on the show because I don't do gotcha stuff. I'm not a controversy guy. I don't have time for the drama. I
hate rabble-rouse.
There's too many other things going on in my life that require my focus. So when they come on, basically what I always do is I want them to feel comfortable. I never broach a subject if I can tell that, okay, this is not the road we want to go down. And I let them talk about themselves and why they do what they do. Because I see a lot of podcasts, I'm sure you've seen them as well, where somebody comes on and like they'll have an author on and they'll spend an hour talking about one book for an hour with like 4 or 5 hosts and one guest. And they're all asking the same questions, just in different words. So when I have people on, like, yeah, if you have a new book out.
Isn't that painful to watch?
It is. It's awful to watch because here's the thing. As a writer myself, when you put out a book, you've lived with that book for 6 months, a year, however long the process has taken. So you're excited that it's out, but you're tired of thinking about it, honestly. I would much rather be talking about what else I'm doing or why I do what I do. And that's what I like to get from my guest is, to tell me about, okay, it's like, great, you were in this movie. That's wonderful. How'd you get started? What was your first role? What was, or how did, when did the band first meet? Like when did, the singer and the guitarist, when did you guys first meet? And they love telling those stories because it's not the same old boring questions that they've already been asked 100 times.
I'm sort of shocked with the amount of podcasts out there.
Yeah.
And there are a lot right now. That seems to be the thing thing to do for a lot of celebrities is to start their own podcast. But pretty much you already know they're probably going to be DOA by the end of the first, maybe the second year, unless they're doing a rewatch show of a very popular show. Then they'll keep going. My idea for doing this, I got my idea for doing this show. I got it from watching Kevin Pollock. He did chat show was amazing. I love chat show. So and then I modeled it after Rosenbaum's show. Nice. I like how he did his. He did his short and to the point.
I've been watching. Actually, you had one of my clients on, Anna Zayden. You had on a few months ago. And she's one of my clients. I do some low level talent representation. I'm just getting that building up because there's so much stuff going on. And every day it seems like a new opportunity is presenting itself.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
Yeah. Oh, Anna's great. Love her to death. She just actually, her and I are now doing, I do a daily radio show for my Substack page. And she's actually my new co-host. She just started doing the show with me last week. So we're having a good time. So 8 questions, fire away. What's your?
8 questions, just the title. So
okay.
I started this on my blog. I started this on WordPress. And so I literally would ask someone if they want to talk, and then I would send them the 8 questions, and then they would respond any way they wanted. And I said, whatever you write is what's going up. I'm not gonna do anything at all. Oh no, this is a conversation. But one of the things I caught on was the fact that, I was wondering if this has happened more than once, where like someone will come up there and say, hey, you come do my show, then I'll do your show. And you came up there and you said that to me. He says, yeah, I can come back and do your show. And I felt like I didn't want anybody to feel obligated. Like
no,
I don't like that at all. It's like, I don't know, I'm happy to have you. I of all the people I've had on the show from other podcasts, I haven't gone visiting anybody. No one's ever asked me to come back to their show.
Hey,
I'm okay with it. Because that's not a condition for you to be on my show.
Sure. And I certainly appreciate that. My thing is, and this is one of the things that kind of put me on people's bad side, was I believe that the talent deserves to have the spotlight. And if that means having people on a podcast or doing a special book release or whatever the case may be, for me, it's always about putting the best light on the person that I'm publishing at the time. I mean, we published 26 books last year, and 7 issues of a magazine. So we had about 60 authors altogether that we put their work out into the world.
That's a crowded field there. It's a crowded as hell out there for for self-published authors.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy how busy it is.
But I got lucky.
Have you been asked if anybody would pay you to give them a good review?
I have not. I have. There are so many books that I would love to read, and if I had more time in my day, I would read them all. I'm fortunate that I have my schedule is flexible enough now, but I'm basically like, if I have a show, I'm taping this. I have interviews that I'm taping at the end of this week for my new show, and I've read that book. And I've watched, and then the second part of the show, I'm going to have a filmmaker on, and I've watched that movie. So right now, that's where my brain is. It's like, okay, we've got to talk about this. We've got to talk about that. Any other books at this point? Got to stay on the side until the following. It's a whole crazy thing because I get sent books all the time. I get stuff in the mail. I get stuff in my email because we did so much last year with publishing, and now I've slowed it down. Part of it was nonsense that happened with people trying to cancel me because I scared people, because I was like, hey, you don't have to pay to belong to that organization. What does that organization do for you?
Yeah, I've had nothing since I've done this. Nothing.
Yeah.
No one's ever come up to me and asked me to, like, can I get on your show and I'll pay you for it? No one's ever asked me for that.
Right.
It did when I had my blog. I got offered three different times. People offered me up to $300 to $400, $300 to $400 to review their book. One offered to have me interview them for $300, and I said, all three of them. I said, why would you pay me? I said, if anything goes on here, it should be us paying you. I can't do that, but I'm certainly not going to charge you to get on my show. I just couldn't believe people were hijacking, these reviewers. That was the one that was really getting me.
Right.
Oh, like they'll come out there and say, to know that somebody was going around saying, yeah, I'll review your book for $300. And the worst thing about it is that they said, I can't do that. I can't afford it. Right. They might review it anyway and give you a shit review.
Yeah.
And that's really unethical. It's just unethical for me. I just wouldn't do that. It's not right. It's not ethical. It's like me getting money off your hard work like that.
Right.
If I could write a review. I mean, it's just really burned my ass.
It's crazy. I had a writer that I was working with last year, and they reached out to do a podcast, and it was like their favorite podcast. Like they had been listening to it for years, and now, and it was all about writing. And now that they had a book, they were like, oh, that would be great. And they reached out to them, and the guys were like, yeah, you can come on our show. It'll be $10,000. And I'm like, what?
Was he overbooked?
$10,000? Really? $10,000? And one of the things that, and I'll tell you this story, and I won't name names, because unlike a lot of people on the internet, I understand the law. There is a former associate of mine who I will give credit to was very, very helpful in helping me get my start in the beginning. Good guy. We have a difference of opinion now on a number of things, neither here nor there. However, one of the most ridiculous stories to go around was that at one point, this gentleman had a very, very, very big guest lined up for his show. Very big. A name that everybody in the horror community knows. And the story goes that either I tried to get this person to come on my show by either offering him $10,000 or asking him for $10,000. Now, I don't have $10,000. I'm not a rich man by any stretch of the imagination. I make enough money to make sure that the next batch of books or whatever I'm working on gets paid for. That's where I am.
Right.
And why would I think that someone, and this, when I say a very big name, big to the point where they don't do horror conventions, big name.
Right.
Why would I think they would give me $10,000? Who the fuck am I?
Yeah.
So, but it's ridiculousness like that, and people believe it, and they're like, "Oh, well, did you hear? Use your common sense, man. Come on. If I had 10 grand to blow like that, would I be doing this? No, I'd be doing TV."
I've seen those pay to play. That's happened. Oh my gosh, Christopher, that's happened a lot where I mean, I'm even talking with people I've known for years, and built up a friendship, and but like you already know your ass is already, when I said you get shot out of the saddle, right?
Right.
And you already know. It's like that scene when the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, where he's turning around and he realizes he's been shot before he. So you go ahead and ask somebody, like, you ask somebody in the horror community, like, hey, would you consider coming onto the show? And there's a hole in my hat because they just got done shot at me, and they'll sit there and say, and you already know what happens when they sit there and say, contact my press agent or contact my manager. When you hear those words, that tells you, or should tell you, that this is not going to be a guest for you, because unless you have that budget. Some people can pay, and I know people have pay. Sure, obviously they pay. That's the reason why they ask the money for it. But I can't, and I never have, I never will. And quite honestly, even if I could afford it, I still wouldn't.
No, I would
pay, because I've already paid. I've already paid by showing my support, going to the movies, buying their books, buying their records.
Exactly.
I've already shown my support by doing that.
Exactly.
So to me, it's just like, and I'm sure they feel like, well, I've done my support because I've done all these little interviews and stuff like that. It's a even Steven. So that's how we should look at it. It's how we should look at it. That's how we should treat it. But I do know there's some actors that and their stars have faded in the community. Now the only time you ever see them is at a convention, because they're not they're never on a movie, or they're on one of those movies where they're on the cover, but they got like 6 lines.
Yeah.
So you got those, and they'll sit there and they'll try to basically say, well, I want $1,000, I want $1,500.
Right.
I have never had anybody quote money to me.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, no one's ever. I've had friends who've done this business, and the actor or actress has quoted a money amount. I like to think I haven't had that happen to me, is because I don't know, because I'm nicer, because
I think that
it helps.
Yeah, I mean, would it? The thing that struck me as funny. I mean, the funniest thing about that whole thing is that it was like, you assumed that I had any contact information for this person, and I'm like, I don't know how to reach out to this dude. Like, I've never talked to him or anybody in his camp or his handlers or his producers or but there it was, because somebody on Facebook thought they were clever, and they were like, oh, well, this is what happened. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I smoke a lot of weed, but I think I'd remember offering somebody $10,000 to come on my podcast. I think if I didn't remember, my wife sure as shit would remember me offering $10,000 to somebody to come on my podcast. So 13 years of marriage, my friend, I am pretty sure that if I was like, hey, honey, I'm going to offer so-and-so $10,000, I'm pretty sure I'd be sleeping on the couch. At best.
Maybe the couch might have been sold with you on it the next day.
Exactly. So that's the thing. I will say this. At some point in time, and I'm not sure when it happened, it became acceptable to celebrate mediocrity. And the problem with that is that there are people out there, and I myself suffer from mental health issues. I've already said I have anxiety problems, agoraphobia. I have problems. But there are people out there who are so desperate for attention that they will latch on to anybody who, like, oh, I read your book. Was it any good? No, probably wasn't any good. But, oh, they gave me a thumbs up on Facebook, so now I'm going to hang on every word they say because they like me. And it's like, guys, no. You know why Stephen King isn't on Facebook? Because he's fucking Stephen King, and he doesn't need to be. Exactly. He doesn't need this weird vampire class of fans that Facebook seems to create.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, as far as Facebook goes, though, it's not the worst place to land. I mean, I've been waiting for Stephen King to bail out from X for quite a while, and he's still there. And I'm like,
No, he's gone. He's on Threads now.
Did he finally leave?
He joined Threads last week.
About freaking time.
And he is everywhere on Threads. He is answering people left and right. Like he is all kinds of on Threads. Yeah. People are very happy to see him.
Oh my gosh. Back in the day, I mean, that's how, that's how Twitter used to be. It used to be like, but I've never had any luck with, I mean, I was on Twitter for a while. It was cool. But I noticed right off the bat that, and this is one thing that Threads has managed to avoid so far, where Twitter never did. And that is it's a horrible place. It's full of self-centered people. Oh, yeah. I like Threads, but I got to tell you, it's full of self-centered people. Yeah. I mean, that's what's disappointing about it. The platforms are. It's almost like the platforms are not designed to coordinate with each other. Like I peeked over and I read some of your Substack. Yeah, it's very cool. My question is, how many of those Substackers have ever come and watched? How many of those people, if you told people to come here and listen to you talk today, none of those people that you have on Substack, they're not coming over here.
There certainly could be a smoother integration.
Yes, that is the worst part. That's actually the most singular part that I would change in doing this type of show, is somehow allow the other people from the other platforms to come in. Now, StreamYard is cool in the sense that it'll allow you to StreamYard to YouTube and also allow you to StreamYard to Facebook. Right. I don't do Instagram because Instagram, yes, you can go on there for an hour and then they'll cut you off. And not only will they not cut you off, the next day they'll wipe out all your text. So people commenting on the show, after a day, all that's wiped out. So I really don't like Instagram for that. Hey, Stephen, how are you? Our friend Stephen Sheets is here. He is a singer.
Hey, Stephen.
And our guest is Christopher Pelton. He runs the podcast show, The Horror Connection. And we're gonna think of the horror here real quick. We're talking indie horror. I'm gonna get some of his favorite Scream Queens because I know he's got a lot. And we're gonna see. Hell yeah, I do know you have a lot. Are you kidding me? I got my contacts on the ground talking to me. Yeah. Oh, that PAC, man, he's got because the Scream Queen is coming back, god damn it. I'm happy as hell for it. It seemed like the Scream Queen was going away for a while because in a hurry to be politically correct. Right. And but I'm so glad that it's now coming back. And the funny thing about the Scream Queens is for the most part, and they're so damn smart now. Mm-hmm. Actresses today, they're smart as hell.
Oh yeah,
they know their value.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Not be more happy and more supportive of that because I've seen some of those girls act, and you just know they're ready for the next level.
Yeah, and it's a different feel than it was back in the 80s. Because a lot of the times, and I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of people at conventions. I've talked to a lot of actors who were in, all kinds of movies, slashers back in the 80s and stuff. And you can tell that if they had been taken care of better, they wouldn't necessarily be doing conventions everywhere that they have. I mean, because some of the times, like I've been to conventions that have, and this is kind of sad, but I've actually been to conventions where at times there were more guests and vendors than there were actual paid attendees. Yes. So that's never a good thing.
No, and yeah, it's sort of amazing to me because I always look at the conventions two ways. There's the summer season, then there's the winter season.
Yep.
And to me, I always feel like the stars who are busy, they're going to be there during the winter season.
Yep.
If you see the same people bouncing from convention to convention during the summer,
yeah,
They don't have anything going on.
No.
Because you're going to film in the summer before you film anywhere else. If you ask anybody, you'll say, "What would you rather film out in June or July, or December, January?"
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been good. I did the shows that we did. It's weird because prior to getting into the publishing and everything, I was a toy dealer. I was doing toy conventions. I was selling figures, Funko Pops, all kinds of stuff. And it's a different market because when you're selling stuff like that, you're selling other people's products. They're not coming to that table to meet me. They're coming to that table because I have this particular thing that they're looking for. The problem that I ran into as a publisher doing conventions was a lot of times when people go to conventions and they buy books, they want to meet authors, they want those books signed.
Yes.
And I totally understand that. As a publisher, all I can do is offer you the books. I can't, I can sign my book for you. That would be fine. But, everybody else's books. So I stopped doing shows as publisher and started doing shows as press. And that has worked out much better because doing all of that, I've had the opportunity to meet some really great people. And that has led to some crazy things that we've got going on.
It's funny. It's like, man, I haven't actually been to a convention in a while. My choice. Haven't been for a while. I see who's out there and whatnot, and my buddy Farm Boy and I, we went to the Motor City Comic Con back when it was really small,
right?
And they were actually doing 2 shows a year. They were doing one in the fall, one in the springtime, and then they were doing one in the fall time. One in the springtime. So I just saw that this year that they went back to doing 2 shows a year. So I was actually pretty happy about that. I was surprised because I had thought I didn't know they had built themselves back up.
Nice.
Yeah, because they were one of the shows where we went to the second show, and yeah, it was like you said, there was more of them than there were of us. That's never good.
No.
Man, conventions. It's like you always wonder, like, how does a handler handle somebody at a convention? It's like, because to me, it's like I'm sitting there watching half of the people there. Half the people are really happy to be there, and they'll talk to you, they'll have fun with you, and everything else. Half the people look like it's like you're taking a shit in front of everybody, and there's no door for them to shut in on. They're not happy. They're not happy to be there. They're not happy to have you sit there and the thing is, on it, this is what I really feel bad for them too. Is you always got those ones that just roll in on the 1 or 2 big credit. And I did. Now I take it back. I did have someone wanted me to pay them. Yeah, back when I was doing my written blog, they wanted me to pay them $250 because they were on The Walking Dead when The Walking Dead was hot, and a
lot of people were on The Walking Dead.
Yeah, she came up there and says, "I could do your show, but I need $250." And I said, "Well, I can't do that, but let me know what show you did, and I'll watch it. I'll watch to support it.
Right.
As a podcast, I'll watch to support it, but I can't pay you that kind of money. Nor would I. But I didn't tell her that, but I just couldn't afford to do that.
Right.
But going to conventions, that's a weird animal. It's changed so much. The world of conventions have changed so much. Cosplayers now are big, sometimes just as big.
They're celebrities.
Yeah,
I have met people, and that is how they make their living. They do cosplay. They do Instagram videos. They do TikToks, and that is how, and good for them. I have met some amazingly creative cosplayers. Like the effort that these people put into their costuming, mind-boggling. Like the attention to detail and just the craft of it all. It's absolutely amazing. And I've met some really cool folks at some shows. And if you can make a living doing what you love, and you can travel, and you can share what you love with other people.
When the conventions call you, when the conventions get on the phone, they ask you to come out there on your show, come do the convention. That's when you're doing it right. that's when you know you're doing it right. And before they would always just show up just to be as part. They have to pay. They had to pay for parking. They had to pay just to come in, just like I did. But
Yep.
now to the point now where now that it's like, yeah, well, we'll have you come over and we'll pay
Yeah.
you a rate during the hour, and can you help us can you do a panel for us on cosplay? Sure. Can you do a
Absolutely.
contest for us? Sure, we can do that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so cosplayers are a lot of fun to talk to.
Oh, they're great. I love them. I have anytime when I was doing toy shows, I would get, all of the toy shows were the most, and the horror shows are fun too, because one thing I've noticed about the horror audience at conventions is it is a family thing. Mom and dad and the kids are like, I've seen little kids dressed up as Chucky. I've seen little kids dressed up as Ghostface. I've seen, I mean, it is a family thing at some of these horror shows. And you think, you think to yourself, you're just like, why would you do? But, I got a kid, she's 28 and she likes horror. So I guess I did something right. So.
Well, you must do something right too, because Stevens just said he just subbed to your channel, so that's a good thing.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steven. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of really cool podcasters. I've had a collective come up as well. The Variant, shout out to the Variant. I have one coming up later on this month. Stephanie Ward. And then I have our good friend, the Goddess of Vale, which she's the best. And I just she's I just admire I just admire the work, the craftsmanship that goes behind it. It's
Absolutely.
really cool. Now independent horror, I was saying before how it seems to be coming back. Like now we're hearing that now we're hearing the terms, like Scream Queen are coming back and Horror Babe and the Final Girl. And we're starting to hear all that coming back now, whereas before horror just sort of like, they sort of got, pushed back into the weeds. Like, it's so stupid to sit there and say, well, we can't show, especially for an actress who's okay with it.
Right.
It seems like, or a guy. I'll be remiss if I did not mention a guy, because not every guy is going to be happy about showing his ass on TV,
That's true.
but or on a movie. But you got the girls willing to do it, the guys willing to do it. It just makes me laugh at the fact that some people are getting bent out of shape because there's some woman walking across the screen bare-breasted, but you don't say a goddamn word 8 minutes later when she's gutted like a fish. other than like, wow, that's a cool kill. Oh yeah, Jigsaw.
We do have a weird double standard here in this country. The European market, it's very different. They are actually almost the exact opposite of us. Sex, no problem. Violence, I mean, the video nasties.
They're in France. France has no problem at all.
Oh yeah.
Neither does Spain, for that matter. I can tell you that firsthand. Spain has no problem at all.
Oh yeah.
Going deep. No, I have not seen 120 Days of Solo, nor have I seen a Serbian film. But I have seen Martyrs, and I have seen The Coffee Table. And let me tell you, those people can bring the noise as well as anyone.
Oh, they do. Serbian film. It was almost like they were trying too hard. And I'll say this, and this is one of the things that I find very funny. It happens in the writing game. The splatterpunk genre in horror writing is basically, it's extreme gore and violence for the sake of extreme gore and violence, which is fine, except for the fact that I've seen like some of these are the best, worst. I don't know how you would judge, how you would judge it, but it's like, this is the best splatterpunk book ever written, and he does this and this and this and da 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 da. And then Damien Leone puts out a new Terrifier trailer. And now your book is meaningless because he did in 2 minutes what you couldn't do in an entire book. Because I love gore. I've always loved gore. But gore doesn't work on the page. Gore works on the screen. I'm going back to, Wizard of Gore and all that stuff back in the late 70s and everything.
You got to be a master. I mean, back then, our good friend Hobbs is here. He is one of the hosts of the Midnight Hour every Thursday night at 10:15.
Right
he
on.
said hello to you. Hello,
sir.
Yeah, and he is also a film reviewer as well. The extreme horror, back in the day, like in the 60s, go back to the 50s, go back to the EC comic days.
Oh yeah.
You go back there and you look at those, that almost ended the comic book industry right then and there because of just the absolutely graphic violence that was coming out off those pages. I mean, even today, I mean, you look at people watching Tales of the Crypt, which basically was EC Comics,
sure,
and you go back and look at those comic books now, and people are like, their eyes are bulged because they're going like, wait a minute, this was coming out in the 50s? Because because it's like there's nothing coming out today like that.
Exactly.
Now you have people trying to shock you, like
right.
all cut off the head just to do it. But the thing is, though, it's like EC Comics didn't have to try.
Right.
And not every story had someone's head losing somebody's head. But
exactly.
they depended on the stories. Ramsey Campbell. I mean, there's so many. There's Richard Matheson. There's so many great writers out there that wrote great horror. And man, oh man, you're sitting there reading it and you imagine it in your mind's eye. Like the first time I ever saw the old chestnut about the ventriloquist. Like at the end of it, it's him. He's got his hand up the girl's spine and he's manipulating. And at the end of it, the guy's driving off and he's going like, oh, wait a minute. He's coming to realize that what he just saw back there, it's like a cartoon, he's like, wait a minute. But it was awesome because you could see it in your mind's eye. And that was just like, that is how horror is written. That's how it was, Now, Stephen King, is he the most graphic horror writer out there? Hell no.
No.
Neither is Dean Koontz. Neither is Clive Barker is probably more graphic than probably those two guys together.
Yeah. And even he, see, with Barker and with the Hellraiser movies and all of the stuff that spawned from his work, the violence and the gore is there because it serves a purpose. And if it serves a purpose in the story, that's great. But shock value for the sake of shock value, that's just bad writing. There's nothing tying it together. Yeah, there's no like, oh, well, this person in the last book, this is the most extreme thing they did. So what do I need to do to get my book to be the most, And it's like, no, come on, give me a good story. Give me a good story every time. And you don't need to shock me with cheap, parlor tricks. All right. I mean, I've read some things that, and I'm not really a monster guy. Let me strike that. I love monsters. Grew up with monsters. As an author, I'm not a monster guy. My stories are.
I think writing a kaiju story is got to be one of the most difficult things.
Yeah, my writing, most of my stories and stuff. I like to joke that I don't write stories; I make plans. Because a lot of the stuff that I write is based in real life. The human monster to me is terrifying. So when I write, it's like Twilight Zone type stuff, or there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of elements of the supernatural necessarily because, the guy who is, down the block abducting children is much more terrifying to me than, the vampire came out of the dusty castle, blah, 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 blah. It's like, that's fine and dandy. And again, I love monsters and I grew up with the reruns of the Universal monsters. And I grew up with, the Lost Boys and all of the monster movies that came out, and the Godzilla stuff and all of that. And I will sit down and happily watch monster movies any day of the week. But when I write, that's just not what I do. I want to scare people with real life. So
No, I get that. But you're right. Sometimes people they write for the sake of killing. I like a good suspense story. To me that's what drives me.
right.
Um, I see there's some good writers out there in
Oh yeah.
horror, in independent, especially independent horror. There are some really good writers. There's still some out there that are feeling their way through the process, right? I mean, I have good friends who've been on the show before, and they've come out with their first movie, and it's a dribbler down the line, to use a
Right.
baseball phrase.
Right.
But you already know they're going like, okay, so maybe he didn't crack it out the first time through, but you definitely know that he has it in him.
Oh
Um,
sure. Absolutely.
you just can't wait to see it happen.
If some folks that I personally highly recommend. Uh, wow, sorry. Yeah, Stephen W. Cheshire. He's a writer from Australia. He just put out a zombie book called Outback, and it's a different take on the zombie thing, which is nice because I was kind of getting burned out on the zombie thing. But it's a totally different take on the zombie thing.
The short film Cargo, not the feature length film, but the little short film, 12-minute short film.
Yeah,
brilliant. Hops has a question for you, Chris.
Sure.
It says, any advice for future podcasters? Anything to gain more views? I could tell you right now, as far as that goes, honestly, if you want to gain views for your channel, do true crime. No kidding. No kidding. Get yourself. All you have to do is find out how much it costs for Freedom of Information Act, and then you can get sent for like okay, I want to cover this guy's shift or this guy's arrest.
Sure.
If you want views, if you want a popularity, I mean, and if you doubt me, just type in cops. Just type in cops.
It's
people.
Yeah, it's very true.
A cop busting a shoplifter will draw 50, 60, 70,000 people in a day.
It's crazy. It is.
Yeah. If you want to do that, I would highly recommend going true crime.
Yeah. If you want to do horror podcasting, what I can suggest, like I said before, talk to everybody. If you have a book event near you or a horror convention near you, go to the shows, talk to the people. The worst thing they're going to say is no, and the best case scenario, they'll be like, oh, that sounds great. Here's my card, can it contact me, blah, blah, blah. And that's how, if you look at my show, that's how I met Ari Lehman, who was Jason in the first Friday the 13th. It's how I met Beatrice Bockley, who was Amanda Kruger in Elm Street 5. It's how I got in touch with Ken Sagios, who was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4.
I got an interview with Ken Sagios. You've seen him interview before, right?
Oh, I interviewed Ken. He's a great guy. Him and I were talking about, he's working on an indie film about a killer parrot called Socrates.
Right.
He did a comic book, and he's in the works on a film for it.
It's funny because for a while, man, it was rough. Yeah. I passed on it. I got offered it twice. I passed on it. Once I actually tried to get it over on Hops' show, but I didn't have time to do it properly. But man, I mean, his interviewing technique was like, it was painful, because you watch other people do interviews, right? So he's like, I talked to, but there's some, and I'm not afraid to say it either, but I mean, I remember watching him try to do an interview, and man, it was rough. It was really, really rough. And but man, I bet your interview took place less than 6 months ago.
I think it was back in April, so just a little over that.
He changed.
Yeah,
but he was a friend of ours named Kyle. He did an interview with him. Fucking great interview. I was sitting there going like, wow, this is awesome. I'm really digging the hell out of him. So
that, I mean, for that, ask everybody. A lot of authors, especially new authors, They're looking for ways to expand their reach. They just don't know how. One of the things that I can tell you about indie authors, they suck at marketing. And they will be the first ones to tell you that. They don't understand it. They don't want to do it. They just want to write and hope that people buy their book. And that is an admirable goal. It's not in any way, shape, or form based in reality. I have been called a number of things. I've been called a used car dealer. I've been called all kinds of things. But I am always honest in that regard, in that if you want to sell your books, you have to be, you are your loudest cheerleader. And if you can't get out there and do that, I can lay down the possibilities. I can offer you a spot on TV. I can offer you a spot on a podcast. I can offer you a spot on a radio thing. But if you don't do it, all I can do is make the offer. So
yeah, that's one thing. I'll say. I'll sit there and say it's one thing I go to bed resting easy about, and that is, and also, but it's also what you and I were talking about before. Hobbs says here, do you collect any physical media? Do you collect movies or figures?
at the current moment in time, I'm not collecting anything because I just moved, and I'm going to be moving again. We moved from the East Coast to Illinois, and we rented here, and we're actually in the process of closing on a house. So right now, all of my my funds are tied up. I've been a comic book guy since I was 8. My collection is very small now, mostly graphic novels because comics take up a lot of space. So comic books primarily in graphic novel or in trade paperback form now. I used to collect DVDs and Blu-rays. Again, for me, it was a space thing. I know the digital thing. I understand the arguments pro and con. It's a good reason. It's a reason why I don't have a record player, because I know me, I'd start buying vinyl again. Because I grew up in the 80s, man. So vinyl was still king then. I try to avoid. Although I have been spending money on art. So
yeah, I'm trying to get my good buddy Haas here. I'm trying to get him to do a movie room tour. So every Thursday I head over to a show and I sit there and going like, are we getting a movie room tour today? And sometimes I have hope. Sometimes I feel like he's going to say yeah, because he gets all these kick-ass movies from all these distributors, and I'm going like, man, yeah, he gets like he'll show stacks of what he gets. I'm like, man, I mean, it's like stuff that's just brand spanking new, and he'll get it for review, and I'm like, all right, and
nice.
I want to see what else he's got in this room. Hobbs's collection is legendary.
Right on.
A lot of very cool motion pictures over there in Ohio. As far as we were talking about the Screen Queen aspect of things, I'm gonna go back to that because, man, it's like I said, it's cool to gauge with the actresses, and what's really cool too is that. Is when they know they're, same thing with the actors. I've seen a lot of good actors and award-winning actors, and it's really cool when they wake up and they realize what they're worth. Like, they've done a lot of movies, they've done a lot of, and they're very good at promoting. A lot of the actors that I've talked to, and you've probably talked to, are actors or directors. They have gotten really damn good at promoting themselves. Before, a director. And this is the problem. It's like now, even actors. The problem is for me was watching them come ahead. They go ahead. They work on a movie. The movie will come out. They might give a couple of, a couple of standard interviews, and then they move on from it. Right. And it's just like, what are you expecting to follow behind you after you leave? Do you expect there to be a big publicity machine to come behind you? Yeah. I mean, not everything is Terrifier. Not everything is Skinner Marek. Both those movies were blown up strictly by word of mouth.
Oh yeah,
that's not always going to happen. So you have to get out there, and you have to promote your stuff, and you have to promote your movie.
Well, what was in my opinion in the last 20 years, the best promotional campaign I've seen for any movie was for Paranormal Activity. The fact that they did it town to town, and they had the website set up, and it was like, oh, where do you want us to come next? And there was like 1 or 2 prints just traveling around the country, and it built the hype. And that movie made $150 million on a $15,000 budget. So
how about Smile?
Yes.
Or look at the publicity they did for that movie. That movie,
Oh, yeah.
they got a handful of people. And picked the ones with the weirdest smile. Told them to go stand like in baseball and football games to smile, and people were talking about that than they were the game. They're like,
yeah,
and they didn't cost them hardly anything.
Nope.
Brilliant. It's a brilliant marketing campaign.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. If you can find a way to get people's eyes on you, and a positive way. let me because there's a lot of very easy negative ways to get people to pay attention to you. But if you can get in a very positive way with something as simple as that, because it's going to get people talking. And that's like, I've got a very special event next Friday night. And I released yesterday on my social medias, I released a cipher. So if people figure out what the cipher is, they can figure out what I've got planned for next Friday night. But I may actually have an announcement before we go off the air here. So
now, if only those people from Substack, when you promote that over to Substack, then you can give them the link to this show and say, you're gonna have to take your lazy asses off your seat and travel. You're gonna have to freaking travel to another website.
Right.
I don't want to feel like I have to join every single platform. I just don't really feel like I want to do that. I was on Twitter. I got rid of that. I'm on Facebook. I generally just use Facebook for. I really don't engage with anybody over there. Really, not too much.
They pretty much. At this point, they're all pretty much just.
I'm more engaged here on YouTube and on Instagram and on Threads than I'm anywhere else.
Yeah.
Threads is just kicking my ass. I mean, before I'd be sitting there fighting just to get one person to come onto the show.
Right.
I could have booked my December within a day if I had wanted it that way. I could have booked 25 dates.
And that's what I like about the folks on Threads.
More than that, I could have gotten more guests if I had booked every single day of the month. I could have booked the whole 31 days. I could have found 2 people, Chris, to come on Christmas and New Year's Eve. But I didn't want to do that. You're still trying to get people to come watch you.
Oh, sure.
But it's the travel part. To get over there and sit there and say, hey, come on over and see, come over and because I cross promote here and I do I saw I do Instagram and then I do Facebook and I do Threads and I do the tube here. But promotion seems to be the hardest thing, especially in a sea of podcasts.
It is.
Everybody has a podcast, and Hobbs asked earlier about how to gain more views or gain watchers. If you're looking for that, like I said, I wasn't being facetious. I was actually being dead serious. If you wanted to me, it's like, man, there's filmmaker Jeff Clark here. I haven't tried Threads yet. You're the first person I've heard talk about it. I might have to give it a shot. It is it's great, Jeff.
Love Threads. Love Threads.
Love Threads a lot.
The only thing that Threads is missing is a direct message function. But other than that, Threads is great. Love it. I've met so many positive people who understand that, like I said earlier, this is a business. Go out, spread the word. I'll help in any way I can. I have,
because I'm just going to tell you, you just walked into very much a potential guest for your show. Jeff
Awesome.
he's a filmmaker. He's done a lot of great films. I highly recommend him as a guest.
Cool.
Engaging. In fact, I actually was thinking about you today, Jeff. If you go back and if you go to my I go out and I go to get physical media on Tuesdays. I go to my local library and I find all these movies for $0.25 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then I come back and I do a video and I talk about them, what I found. And one of the movies I found today, and I commented when I said I got this movie because I know this is my friend Jeff's favorite movie. I got a copy of Spartacus. No, not Spartacus. No, not Spartacus.
I saw that.
I found a copy of Spartacus. I was like, I'm jazzed.
I saw that movie in 6th grade history class. My history teacher had this really funky way of teaching us world history, where we would learn, like when we were studying Rome, we'd do the whole book thing about Rome. And then I saw Ben-Hur, I saw Spartacus, I saw there was a handful of them. We studied Egypt, we watched Cleopatra, then we watched The Mummy, because The Mummy.
I said Spartacus. Spartacus was like the Godfather. I said Spartacus is like the Godfather of the gladiator movies.
To answer Hobbs's other question, I am a Gambit guy. I've been a Gambit guy for the last 30 years. My favorite comic of all time, though, is the Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman. But as far as Marvel goes, I'm a Gambit guy. So basically what happened was I got hooked up to go back to what we were talking about before with conventions. In 1993, I went to the very first Philadelphia comic convention. It was held in some convention center, not a very big place, but it was a decent, for a first time show, it was a decent crowd. And when I was there, I met Hart Fisher from Boneyard Press. And Hart had released the Jeffrey Dahmer biocomic, which had caused a whole bunch of stink in the early 90s. People were losing their minds. And I'm walking around the convention floor and I just hear this long-haired crazy bastard just screaming from like across the room. I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? So I walk over and I meet Hart. And then 30 years go by. And then about a year and a half ago, I was looking for an artist to do a cover for one of the issues of the magazine. And a friend of mine had brought up his name in conversation. And I was like, holy shit, I haven't heard from that dude in a long time. So I reached out to him. And we started talking. And he did the cover for me. And then I went ahead and I published 3 books for him. True crime book, An American Horror Story. We just released the collected edition of all of the Dahmer comics from the 90s. And we just released his first book of poetry in hardcover. So those are happening. I have a cookbook coming out with the actor Shar Jackson. She was in Good Burger and on Moesha and a bunch of cool stuff in the 90s. Absolute sweetheart of a person. We're doing a book together. There's a lot happening. My new show, let me tell you guys that a little bit. Basically what the new show is going to be is it's going to be called THC Time. And 3 weeks a month, this show is going to be a segment with an author or a musician or an artist. We'll talk about their work. We'll talk about, what they do. And then the middle section is going to be a variety of things that I'm in the process of putting together. And then the third section is going to be a showing of a short film with the director, and then an interview with the director about the movie. And then the fourth month of the year, or the fourth week of the year, the fourth week of the month will be a screening of a full-length film, sometimes in indie, and then sometimes like what I've got going on next Friday night. So I'll tell you guys what I've got going on next Friday night. It's very exclusive screening. I've got 7 tickets available. We will be watching Friday the 13th, the final chapter, with the director, Mr. Joseph Zito, will be joining us. And then after the screening is over, we'll be going live to Facebook for a Q&A, live Q&A with the director. So That's Friday the 13th, because how could it have possibly worked out any better for us? I think we're going for 8 o'clock. I think, but I'm on Central Time. They're on Eastern Time, so I don't know. Something it'll be like between 7 and 8 o'clock. We'll figure out the timing. But if anybody's interested, hit me up. We can make that happen.
What's your favorite Friday the 13th movie, and which one do you not like the most?
I'm a fan of 6. 6 is ridiculous. It's the appearance of Zombie Jason. It's the one that I watched the most when I was growing up. It was on all the time, at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and so
Right.
that one is always my favorite. And an unpopular opinion, I'm actually a fan of the Final Friday as well. Jason Goes to Hell. It's got some cheese in it, yes, but there's also a lot of neat stuff. Not a huge fan of part 2. Just kind of, it feels like filler between the origin story and then Jason becoming Jason. So 2, yeah, I'm of a mixed bag with 2. 5 is fine. I don't have a problem
about what kills me about Chris is hearing people when they don't to me I always feel like they don't really know the true story behind Jason Goes to Hell, the Final Friday.
Right.
Oh my gosh, Adam Marcus was like 22 years old when he made that movie. It was his first movie. He was 22 years old. They gave him the franchise. They killed off the main character, and then they gave him the franchise, saying, "Okay, come up with something."
Yeah. And he did. I like that movie. I'm fine with that movie, and I like Jason X too.
I think a lot of people throw hate on that movie, and I'm just like, if you just heard the story behind it, though, I think honest to God, I think people would hate that movie less by 75% if they understood what happened.
Well, it's like with Halloween 3. If that movie had just been called Season of the Witch, it'd have been perfectly fine.
Yeah,
people would not hate it the way they only hate it because it's a good movie.
Oh,
Halloween 3 is a solid film.
That's my favorite of the Halloween movies.
And if it had just been called Season of the Witch, it'd be perfectly fine.
I mean, I see people out there yakking away about how much hate they have for Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Hell, and then they start talking about Halloween, and I'm going like, Jesus Christ, I can't. You're talking about someone driving a Studebaker, talking about someone driving a Ferrari. You can't get two better movies than to talk about. Right. Friday the 13th, The Final Hell was a fun as fuck movie. It was fast. It was furious. Halloween 78. My cat falls asleep watching that shit.
Well, I know this. Friday the 13th or Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday was a hell of a lot better film than Halloween Resurrections. And I love Busta Rhymes. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of Busta Rhymes. But I did not need to see Busta Rhymes karate kicking Michael Myers into a junction box. Right. I did not need to see that.
No. And it just amazes me when they start talking about the franchises. I'm like, what? To me, it will always be no matter what comes out. But Jason Takes Manhattan will be the worst. God, it's all I dare say it's the worst movie of that franchise, and it's not even close. I mean, it's so bad.
Here's the thing with that, and this is where it immediately falls apart. They're at Camp Crystal Lake.
How do they get a little midget freighter into the lake? Yeah.
And how did they get it out to the Atlantic Ocean from the lake?
I'm just thinking to myself, going like, let's think about this. Let's just use a little bit. Let's try to use just a smidge of logic.
Just a little tiny
bit. First of all, that's not a cruise ship. That's a freaking freighter. That's something you see shit that it's not even. It's a freighter. It's a freaking freighter. And you have less than 20 people or 30 people on that ship. You know how much money that would cost just to take the river and go inside the lake to pick them up.
That's crazy.
That's a tremendous amount of money. It's just like it makes no sense. That movie makes zero sense.
And the fact that nobody bothered to look at the budget and go, oh shit, we can only afford to shoot in New York for one day.
Hello. This is Kira and Mika. They're also, as you can see, they're also podcasters as well.
Awesome. Hello.
And Jeff is sitting over there laughing, agreeing with my logic. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. You're not wrong.
Look, the only thing the only thing I can actually sit there and say, well, what do you recommend? What's the one thing you recommend? Because you always try to look for something good, and that is that Kelly Hu was in it, and I was like, oh,
and that was it.
That was it.
He fell into some toxic waste because, as everybody knows, the sewers of New York City are filled with toxic waste every night at midnight.
Yeah. Okay. So I wouldn't. Yeah, it's another thing. So how did it go when Jason got hit? Jason got hit with all that sludge. With all that sludge. Came out as a little 8-year-old kid with all the fur on his head and everything else. They put the teacher in the same shit, and he dies. It's like, wouldn't the principal come back out as a miniature principal, like a kid? No.
The whole thing was fucked. It was all
fucked. But we're gonna get all these slap happies. All these slap happy fans are sitting there going, "Well, Jason Goes to Hell was terrible, dude. He got Sam Raimi the Book of the Dead, and he put the Book of the Dead in his movie. Yeah. He connected Friday the 13th with a Evil Dead universe. He should get rewarded just for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then the end scene, of course, with the claw. But they didn't.
Everybody clapped when they saw that.
Oh yeah, there was. I think there's this book. It's called Slash of the Titans, and it's about the process of creating Freddy versus Jason, and it includes like the synopsis of like 16 different scripts that they went through, and most of them are garbage. And the one that they went with, and people might get upset when I say this, the one that they went with was also garbage. But one of the script ideas that they had was really interesting. It was that Jason Voorhees, as we know him, was a character in the movies based on a real person who lived in the woods in New Jersey. So at the beginning of the movie, they arrest this guy they find him in his hovel, in his shack in the woods. And it's all about his trial, because they're trying him for all these crimes. And it turns out that it was Freddy's fault that he drowned in the lake when he was a kid. And so like Freddy it was a really weird, but it was a really good. And it was a hell of a lot better than, the one that we got. I just am not a fan of Freddy versus Jason. I wanted to be, I really did.
I wanted it too. But it just didn't work.
Yeah. It took too long to get it done. And I mean, it had been what?
I think I just think that they could have had a decisive winner. The ending of it was stupid as hell. Freddie winking and nobody everybody wanted a winner. Everybody wanted.
Yeah, they want one way or another. They wanted a definitive answer to it, and they couldn't.
Well, you know what? It would have been really, even though the time frame wouldn't have worked, but it would have been really interesting to see what would happen is if they would have put Jason as Uber Jason, that he became into Jason X. Now that would have been a much more interesting movie than what we got. Because I think Jason X is my favorite Friday the 13th. It's not the best one, but it's my favorite one.
Best kill in the franchise, though.
Yeah, but what is that best kill? Because I think I agree with you. It's the best kill in the franchise, but it's not the people that people think it is. It's not the girl. It's him. It's Jason. Jason gets wiped out.
Good point. Yes, Jason gets the shit blown out of him in that movie.
Oh, yeah. I was sitting there, and most of the time you always see this in a lot of horror movies, right? You always see this. Somebody will go to the killer and they'll put and Scream made a lot of fun about that. Like when Sidney shot him in the head.
Yeah.
And so I can go like, Oh hell no! You're not coming back. Not taking a
Not
chance.
my movie.
Puts another one in the dome.
That's
That's
right. Double
awesome. That's
tap.
hilarious. Because all those horror movies, that's a trope. It's like, the guy's been going around. He's been taking 20 whacks at everybody's backs. But then when you get a chance at it, you take one at one.
One.
Dude,
Right.
he just got done chopping up your friends. I mean, I would swing till my arm
Shoot him.
fell off.
Yeah, exactly.
But no,
hit
you
him
hit him
and
once,
keep fucking hitting him.
Yeah, you hit him once and that's it. But KM14 walked in there and went and did it with style. It with style.
Absolutely.
Shot him up, put the gun like this, aimed to look and just shot just destroyed him. I'm like,
it's true. Yeah, that was bad.
Then of course, the best resurrection. Uber Jason. I mean, come on.
Uber Jason, badass. It was a badass look when they did that reveal. It was like, oh shit, that ain't good.
I thought Jason X was just had so much fun going forward.
Oh, it was, and that's the thing is you couldn't. I mean, first off, you shouldn't be going into any of those movies taking them seriously. But that one, I mean, Jason in space, come on.
Well, I really liked the first 4 films.
Yeah,
I thought the first 4 films were definitely the best ones by far. Best made. Best made, best storyline because they happen in reality. And I think that the fact of the matter is that they actually had the balls. Think about this. They actually had the balls to sit there and say, we're going to kill him off. And they did.
And
they killed him off.
And they brought Roy. And everybody loves Roy.
Yeah, and they brought him back, but they had, they actually, but it's like, we're not bringing it back as a Jason, they had to go out there and, again, this is like, going back to Adam Marcus, it's his first movie, and this is what he's given. He's given us saying, well, we don't have a script for you. We don't have anything for you. We have a budget for you. A budget.
Here's some ideas.
Here's some ideas. Here's a budget. Go out there and make it work. First time director, 22 years old, and he's been given the keys of a horror franchise.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's not necessarily a good thing. It's so much pressure on.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like I just can't imagine. We talked. Jeff and I have talked, and Mika and Kira have talked about this. I personally love short films. I think short films are awesome. I'm a true fan of the genre. Absolutely. I think they're cutting edge for a lot of good directors to get in there, cut their teeth on it, and then come back and be able to do a full length feature. I don't know if Adam did very many short films. I don't think so.
Right.
I go back and re-listen to that, but he got given to the car keys really early in his career. That was his first feature film.
Oh sure.
For a horror franchise. There's a lot of directors that have failed in that position. Has failed.
Oh, yes, indeed.
I think this movie made a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about Josh Trank. I'm thinking about Keith Thomas. I'm thinking about there's a lot of directors out there that have been given their first movie or given a feature film for their second movie or their first movie and have really struggled with it.
Oh, sure. Have you seen, speaking of short films, have you seen Never Hike Alone?
No, I have not seen that one.
Genius. Absolute genius. Shot so well. Probably the best Friday fan film I've seen, and I've seen a ton of them.
I saw the one by a German filmmaker named Francisco. He did Friday the 13th, Origin of Evil. It was a 4-part.
Right on.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I was hooked from the second it came on, and I'm just like, this is amazing. Other than the part where the one, other than where the girl would hit him once over the head. It's like, dude, you just get done chopping up your friend. I would do the same. I wouldn't just beat him over the head and like, oh no, I
swinging.
Yeah. But other than that little pet peeve, he did a really good job. He knew the character. It felt absolutely organic. It felt like it was Jason when he was alive. It's a great short, which is our favorite of the year in the horror. Is the horror Chime from Kiyoshi Kurosawa.
Right on.
I have not.
Well, my plan is with the new show is to get all the indie filmmakers, get all the short filmmakers and everything. So next year I want to do a film festival. I want to do a short film festival. So that's in my book of things to do. But with the show, I've already like so many. All I did was made a post about the fact that I'm doing a new show, and I was looking for indie filmmakers with short films, and my thing blew up.
Can I ask you one question? I'm gonna put you on the spot. Well, because Anna. So did you get to see Jason in Indianapolis? And thoughts?
I have not seen it.
Yeah.
I was involved in that project early on. Due to some conflicts, I removed myself from that project.
All I gotta say, I'll say this for Samuel. I'll say this for him, Samuel Schumacher, who made Jason in the Indianapolis. He's a fan of Gaspar Noé. That's all I can say, because he did what Gaspar Noé did with Climax. I don't know if you've ever seen Climax or not, but if you've seen Climax, he ran his opening credits halfway through the movie. And Samuel did the same thing with his Jason movie. It was like 33 minutes into it, and he started running the opening credits. And I'm going like, yeah. Oh, that's the same thing I said about Gaspar. I'm saying, like, could you not do anything worse than to take me out of your movie than running your credits midway?
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, I couldn't understand why Samuel did that either, other than he's a Gaspar fan.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did that in The Void or not, or Irreversible, but I know is that he did it in Climax, and it just didn't fit at all.
Right.
And I didn't think it worked on his Friday the 13th movie either. I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, that's an odd choice. So yeah, I'm glad to see that it got made. I'm always happy to see people see their projects to fruition. I have no ill will towards anybody. Just there were certain circumstances involved that I was not comfortable being a part of. So
you see, now we have Mika and Kira here, and this is the other thing too, is I just had something happen to me recently, and it was really, really tough. It was really tough. Part of it is that we're also film reviewers, and sometimes and this is tough because you get to know some of the people behind the movies, and they're friends. They're still friends right now. In fact, I talked to them tonight. But I talked, but sometimes when you get a movie and you get really hyped up for the movie, and then sometimes when you watch it and it's just not what you expect it to be.
Right.
Like you got to sit there and like, wow, how do I do this without,
what's the nicest way I can tell my friend that?
Like, yeah, because the thing is, it's like, I said I don't ever promise anybody a good review.
No.
I never told him, not one time did I sit there and say, oh yeah, this is in a bag. This is gonna be all that in a bag of popcorn.
Oh yeah.
I had to watch the movie. Right. And then it features some good performances, solo performances I could lift up and take out of the movie and say,
sure.
But the movie itself struggled.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted it to be so much better for my friend because I know he's a hell of a screenwriter.
Right. Exactly.
How do you handle that yourself as a podcast as a host? Have you ever gotten yelled at by a director or a studio because you wrote a negative review?
No, I have been sent some things. It happened more frequently when I was a publisher, I'm still a publisher, but sometimes the project just doesn't work. And there's a million reasons why. I have always done my best, and I tell my clients this. I tell the authors that I publish this. It does not make any sense for me to lie to you about the quality of your work. If your work is bad, I'm not going to be a dick about it, but I will be.
No, of course not.
I'll be direct about it. It's like, okay, this doesn't work, and this is why. And I would get that all the time. Not all the time, but I would get a fair share of that. And there were some people who would take my advice and make the changes and resubmit. And like that happened a couple of times. And they took my advice, they took my suggestions, they resubmitted, and their books were infinitely better after making the changes. Then there's some people that you just never hear from again. And then there's a small percentage that bitch, because it's like, look, you came to me, not the other way around. If your book is bad, I'm not going to put my name on it because it's bad work. So, I'm sorry if I'm the first person telling you that this isn't any good, but maybe that's part of it. I know it's a part of the problem with these younger writers is they've never been told the truth about anything. And
because a lot of those times, I mean, I've seen that, and it's like it's really destructive to me. It's really destructive. Is when they have their books reviewed. It's like the IMDb groups and it's like Facebook for actors. They go in there, and I could never understand this, Chris. Is like they go in there, and it's like, okay, I'm going to go there. I'm going to click on your IMDb page. Okay, so you can get a click for it. I never understood why they do that. Even today, I can't understand that. You go inside there, you click on their name. Like I clicked on the name, and it's Goosamel. Okay, well, yeah, but now Goosamel's been clicked once. But in the bigger scheme of things, is it going to help the movie at all? Is it going to help any of the actors in the movie that Goosamel got a click? No. But what's really more important is to get it reviewed by film reviewers who appreciate the art, who appreciate the movie. And those are like legitimate reviews. Hey, it's our good friend, the mighty Ice Lord.
Howdy.
Just drop in and leave a like and say hello. Thank you so much, Ice Lord. Friday night, bring it back the nice circle. He also has a show on YouTube. I think he'll be doing it once a month. He's extreme horror. He follows the extreme horror world. That's where I learn all my stuff. I get all my horror movies, my extreme horror movies from the Ice Lord. I still haven't watched Found yet. I'm still looking for a copy of that, but or Headless, I think it's called Headless.
So let me say, I know we've got podcasters in the crowd. We've got filmmakers in the crowd. Guys, THC, the Horror Connection, I've created this as a space for all of us to grow together. I've created it as a space for us to benefit from each other's knowledge, to make connections, for me to take people that I know and connect them with other people I know. Amazing things happen that way. Networking is a huge part of what I do. So, for everybody out there who is doing creative stuff, guys, feel free to hit me up at any time. I'm more than happy to do promotion stuff with you. You can come on my show. I've got all kinds of, I have TV deals that I can do advertising packages for you guys. I mean, anything. I do a wide variety of things. I'm a very busy person, but I'm always looking to work with good folks and people who understand that, this is a business, but it's also fun. And, I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to have a spotlight in for all of us to grow together, because horror is great. I love horror. I love the horror community.
I do too. What do you, real quick, we're almost to our point here, but I'll ask you this. What has been your three favorite? Let's make it challenging for our guests here. What's been your 5 favorite horror films of the year so far in 2024? And what 5 have you been like, not working?
Well, I went to see Terrifier 3 in the theater, which is the first time I've been in a theater to see a horror movie since probably the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot. So it's been a while. My wife's not a horror person, so I usually end up having to go by myself. Loved it. Knew what I was getting into when I went to see it. Was not expecting anything less than I got, and had a good time. Long Legs was brilliant. Nick Cage, I swear, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but if you haven't seen Willy's Wonderland, check it out. It's Nick Cage. It's basically a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but done better than the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And Nicolas Cage is basically mute the entire time. He doesn't say a single line of dialogue.
Right.
So, which is amazing because it's Nicolas Cage, right? What else did I watch this year? I watched, I'm not sure if it came out this year or not, but I got around to watching Smile. I have Smile too. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it yet. I'm looking forward to it. Barbarian was great. That was another one I saw earlier this year.
People, that's an interesting movie and something we'll definitely have to come back and talk about.
Yeah.
And that is the fact that it did not get a physical release here in the United States.
Yeah, it was strange. It was like, and I mean, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen it, but when the first major cut in the film comes, the way that they transition from that into the next, like, oh, here's Justin Long. So that was a good one. And I finally got around to watching the X-Pearl Maxine trilogy, which I really enjoyed. I try to keep caught up on them as best as I can. I still have some that are sitting waiting for me to watch. Cobwebs is one of them. There's a couple that I have that I just got to find time to sit down and watch. But there's always a million things going on. So
I would have to go for me. I don't always put down the movies I see that calendar year. So I always try, but as far as movies that I haven't seen before, but I would definitely have to give The Coffee Table as my number one. Number two right now, I would have to see When Evil Lurks. Great film. Man, that's a subversive film. That is not what you think you're seeing is not what you're seeing. Yeah. It is a very, very cool movie. Very interesting. I really like that one a lot, from Argentina. I would go with Late Night with the Devil.
Oh, so good. So good, that movie.
That movie was a hell of a lot of fun.
I got my wife to watch that one. That's how much I was like, oh, no, you have to see this. This is top shelf. This is good stuff.
Late Night with the Devil, Bound to Vengeance.
I don't think I saw that one.
Yes. Oh shit, that movie is a ride and a half. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So Bound to Vengeance was absolutely there. And then one a little older of a film, but it goes really well with Bound to Vengeance. Was The Den.
Okay.
Watch The Den first, then watch Bound to Vengeance after that.
Right on.
And have snacks at the ready.
Well, and Cocaine Bear, of course.
Oh, I have yet to see Cocaine Bear. I saw Cocaine Shark and I saw Cocaine Cougar. I have not seen Crackoon yet.
Crackoon is great. I love that movie. I actually talked to the director of that movie a couple of weeks ago.
Who directed Crackoon? Was that Josh Gray?
Damn it, who was it? Hold on, let me double check. Crackoon was Brad Twig. Yeah.
Okay.
My production partner actually, they just wrapped on Cocaine Roach, which stars the guy who played Freddie Boom Boom Washington on Welcome Back, Kotter. It's a fun little movie about a drag queen drug lord and some some roaches that get into the cocaine. Good stuff. So that'll be out soon. Because, it's so much, let's give all the animals all the drugs and find out what happens. The Cocaine Bear thing is funny, though, because they're based on a true story. And here's the true story. Once upon a time, a bear found some cocaine in the woods.
And ate it and died within 15 minutes.
Yeah. And that was it. Not very exciting, but yeah. Oh, Cocaine Bear. That's one of those movies where if you do imbibe, because it's so much better. That's some good stuff this year. I'm looking forward hesitantly to Nosferatu. I'm a little concerned that it's an hour longer than the original one, and I'm kind of like, why. We
I'm
kind
just
of
not
said everything
really.
we.
I'm not hyped at all.
Yeah,
I'm
it's like I mean, I won't go see it in the theater. When it comes out on digital, I'll watch it because
not.
I just 2.5 hours for an Nosferatu movie just seems a little bit too long for me.
No, and it's just like it's just nothing for me.
Yeah,
It's really cold. It's like I'm waiting for him to come back and do something. Like I have not seen the Northman yet. I heard the Northman was pretty badass.
Northman
Uh,
was good.
my
Northman was
sister
very good.
saw a Lighthouse, and she walked out of it. She said it was god
I
awful.
like the way I had to watch it twice. I didn't quite know what to feel about it the first time I watched it, but the second viewing, I enjoyed it a great deal. And of course, The Witch is brilliant.
Yeah, The Witch is
Uh,
brilliant. Witch is
so
definitely one of my favorite. That's my favorite
yeah,
of his movies by far. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, that's a fantastic film. I tell you what, though, it is time for us to hit the mark. So I will say thank you for coming in and
Thank you,
hanging out.
sir.
Hopefully, you'll come back and visit us after the
Absolutely.
meeting. Hopefully,
Anytime.
yeah,
And
yeah, it was fun to talk with you.
yeah, and for those of you guys watching, if you're free next Friday the 13th, hit me up. I got that special screening going, and tickets are very, very limited.
What are the chances of you slipping in Jason final going to hell instead?
I'd have to get the director for that because
Oh,
we'll be watching the movie with the director of part four.
well, you know, though, you can have the director. You can have the
Yeah.
director talk about the other director. I wonder if they ever do that. I wonder if directors sit there and like, so yeah, let's talk about Martin Scorsese's latest, and then turn around and just nitpick it to death. Ooh.
Sure. Might be able to work that out. So, folks, Patrick, thank you so much. I appreciate this. Anytime, feel free to hit me up. Folks watching, again, if you need any help with anything, you can find me. I am all over the social medias, and you can hit me up at the website, Substack. It's thehorrorconnection.substack.com. Check out our YouTube channel, and I am on most of the social. I'm on Facebook as myself, and I'm on the rest of the socials as THC Dog 420. So,
And I'll have all those in the description box down below. Highly recommend visiting Chris's Substack page. That's a lot. That's a lot of fun. Substack's a lot of fun.
come check
We
out my
will be back
radio show.
tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. Let me tell you what's coming up here this week on the show. So we have show tomorrow night. We'll be talking with Kit Wilson. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. He's a filmmaker, and he will be discussing his films that he's made. On Thursday, the 5th, we will be talking to actress Kayla Marr will be with us. And then on Friday the 6th, we have actress Chase Cortez de Vargas. I actually said her name right. I said her name right. Thank God.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's what we got coming up for the first week of the show. All the shows start at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and please feel free to come by, say hi, and I'm looking forward to all our guests coming up. We
All
still
right.
got coming up on the rest of the month, but we'll let you know. As soon as I fill up the month, we'll let you know what's coming up. All right, thanks so much to Jeff and Hobbs and the Mighty Ice Lord, Miki and Kira. Thank you so much, Anthony, for coming out and hanging out with us. And we will see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.
All right.
Here on 8 Questions With. Stay right where you're at, Chris, for a minute. And to everybody else, we're going to say goodnight. The Boneyard at 10 o'clock with Mr. Bones. I think he's kicking it off at about 10:15. So stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Oh, that's right. I got to do that, don't I?